All right, I think we'll go ahead and get started. I want to welcome everybody to tonight. I know that it's busy. There's a lot going on. We think that we have a really important topic that we want to talk about tonight, which is school safety. We are also recording this. It's also being live streamed. We know that we have a lot of people who couldn't be here, so maybe some of them are joining us on the live stream. Either way, we will have this recorded. I will send a copy of this out from my office along with some other attachments in the next 2 or 3 days. So if you missed it, we'll have it. If you're here, you'll have some additional information. So the purpose of tonight, we're going to spend about the next half an hour talking about school safety here in the Yankton Public Schools. And then we're going to follow it up with 10 or 15 minutes of Q&A. So we'll have you out of here in the next 45 minutes. It's starting to cloud up out west. Who knows what that's going to do, but hopefully it won't go south of us. One of the most important things that we can do, and we take very serious, is the safety of your kids and the safety of our staff here in the school district. We know that we can do a better job of communicating. We know that we can do a better job of maybe defining some of the terminology that we use with our school safety programs. And so Mr. Besky's going to get into this in a little bit more detail here in a minute, but we came across a program called I Love You Guys, and we really think it's what we should be doing here in the school district. It will better define some definitions of things that you've heard on how we've done safety plans, and whether we do a lockdown, a hard lockdown, a soft lockdown. You're kind of familiar with some of that. Some of that language is going to change, and I think you will appreciate the definition of it better. And I think that we can be a bit more transparent in how we make some of our decisions, because it's really about making some quick decisions if we have to, and making sure that our kids are as safe as we can make them. We also have a lot of people here tonight from law enforcement, emergency management, the fire department, the ambulance department, Yankton County Emergency Services. It's really a collaborative joint effort, working with all of them and working with the school district. We can't do it without them. And I want to be clear about this next comment. And, if we would have something very serious that would take place in a school, we'd have an intruder or a shooter or somebody that should not be in our school, our law enforcement will take that situation over. And we are going to follow their lead on what we do or don't do during that crisis. Yes, we'll have some procedures that we'll follow and things that your kids will be aware of and our staff, but when they get on site, they're in charge. And a really hard thing that we've seen in the news over the past several years is that when there's a crisis in a school, I'm like you. I've had kids in school. I currently have 11 grandkids in the school, the Yankton School District. Our first probably thing we want to do as a parent or grandparent, we want to rush to the school and go get our kids or get our grandkids. I understand that. I think our law enforcement understands that. Our administration understands that. But that just probably is not going to be how this is going to happen if we would have a serious incident at school. They're going to be in charge, and they're going to lead how we do this. So I appreciate you being here tonight. Again, we have this live stream. We'll send it all out, and we'll have opportunity for Q&A at the end of this. But the bottom line, we want to do better. We know that we can always improve our school safety, and that's what we want to do. We want to do as much as we can to make sure that our kids are safe and our staff are safe. So I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Besky. He is kind of leading our charge on this new initiative, and he's been working with our school resource officers, and going to tell you where we've been, where we're at now, and where we're heading with this process. So this is Mr. Bessie.
Thank you, Dr. Kendall. Yes, I'm Tony Bestie, principal at Lincoln Elementary, and I'm excited to see all of you here tonight and to take part in this evening so we can better explain some of our current practices and how they're transforming into what we think are better practices. So, a little bit of background. We've had some very strong practices in place for some time, along with the partnerships from the entities that Dr. Kendall had mentioned, and we work hard to keep them in best practice. Officer Olson, myself, and Mr. Decker, as part of the Forward 2029 committee, had a chance to go to a training in Duluth with the I Love You guys. And one of the first things we said coming back from that training was, we do a lot of things really well. Now, that being said, as Dr. Kendall alluded to, we can always do better, and we want to figure out how. Forward 2029 committee is the other component to this, and that's what led to us taking that trip to Duluth on how we can get better. That's where we do our strategic planning, have that five-year process, community input. I know there are other members of the community that participated in our circle as far as school safety, and we carried forward some initiatives from the Forward 2024 plan into Forward 2029, and then figured out how we can best accomplish some of those things that we thought we could do. So, iloveyouguys.org, and that's a website up there that is publicly available. You can check out the information here as we speak or later on. But that comes from an unfortunate incident out of Platte Canyon, Colorado. The parents of the victim in that incident said, how could we help this never happen again anywhere else, or at least make it as good as possible, whatever the situation may be. They also partnered up with some people that were victims in Sandy Hook and parents there, and that's how really this organization has gotten off the ground and taken root. The things we'll reference here, so standard response protocol is the I Love You Guys method on how to respond to a variety of emergency situations that may arise. And we'll go through those in a little bit more detail here. But what we're looking to do is have simplified language, and that's for us as staff, for emergency responders, for you as parents, to make sure we're doing the best we can to pass along information that connects with the situations we're seeing. And I'll provide an example there in a little bit of things that maybe we were causing some undue stress with how we just had things labeled. And then the other piece, standard reunification method, or SRM, that's when we talk about if students would need to be moved off-site from a campus location to another location to be connected with families, and there's a variety of reasons that could happen as well. But I do encourage you guys to check out that iloveyouguys.org website. There's a lot of good information, and what's really neat about this organization is it's all free. Everything is free of charge because they just want kids safe. So this standard response protocol video is something that has been shown at both Yankton Middle School and Yankton High School as far as training our students. And what's cool about this is there are students that have put this on, including a Sandy Hook survivor here, but it does a great job of explaining things.
Why is this stuff important? There are things the adults don't like to talk about. But if things happen at school, I need to have a plan. And I need to know that the adults have a plan. So I'm going to talk about the standard response protocol. It's all about these simple actions.
The first action is hold. Stay in your classroom, clear the hallways. The second action is secure. Get inside, lock outside doors. The third action is lock down. Locks, lights, out of sight. The fourth action is evacuate. A location will be announced. The fifth action is shelter. The hazard and safety strategy will be announced. So let's get started and learn about hold.
Hold in your classroom or area, clear the halls. Hold in your classroom or area, clear the halls.
Something is happening in the halls and the school needs to get it sorted out. So we'll stay in our classroom even if the bell rings.
Try to do classwork, but remind your teacher to lock and close the classroom door.
Won't I be marked tardy for my next class?
Not during a hold.
And if I'm in the cafeteria or the gym?
Depending on what's happening, you might be asked to stay in your area if you aren't in a classroom.
Unlike a lockdown, a hold can be released with a PA announcement.
Students, all clear. The hold is released. All clear. The hold is released.
I'm James. I'm a school resource officer. Kids, get inside, hustle.
Secure. Get inside, lock outside doors. Secure. Get inside, lock outside doors.
Why are we doing it?
We're doing this because something is happening in the neighborhood near the school and we have to get you guys inside. Could be crimes out there, could be riots, could be a dangerous animal, could be zombies.
James, zombies aren't real.
You don't know that.
Here's what happens. Get everyone inside. But inside, you just keep everything normal. Even class changes stay on schedule, except between buildings.
Initially, nobody can come in or go out of the building.
Depending on what's happening, your teacher may ask you to text your parents and tell them not to freak out. School is happening just like normal, and if they show up, they probably won't be letting in anyway.
That's right, nothing to see here.
Chill. Secure is just staying inside.
Sometimes it's a pain, like when school gets out or during lunch, but usually you won't notice much.
What about lockdown?
This is serious. Pay attention because something bad is happening in the school.
Oh, things adults don't want to talk about.
First, I'm going to talk about stuff that we do know. Data and research about attacks at schools. Then I'm going to talk about what to do depending on where you are. First of all, 70% of these are over within 5 minutes. 90% are over in 10 minutes.
And
First, let's look at one thing that they have done. An attacker has hardly ever gotten to a locked classroom door. Hardly ever.
where did you see that?
Get on the web and look at the Sandy Hook Commission report. The FBI has some stuff too.
Lockdown. Locks, lights, out of sight. Lockdown. Locks, lights, out of sight.
So the teacher will lock and close the door.
Right, then what happens?
I got this. First, we're going to get out of sight of the corridor window.
What else are you gonna do?
Then we're going to get low on the floor. I'm going to make sure I can't see out of the corridor window. Then I'm going to take a deep breath. This is an important 5 or 10 minutes. I'm even going to silence my phone or turn it on Do Not Disturb.
Turn off your data and Wi-Fi too. This helps the first responders keep their internet access.
But can I text my parents?
Yes, but not at first. Your teacher will probably have you wait about 5 minutes until it's safe. If it's safe, a few of you at a time can text your parents.
Here's what to text. I'm okay. We're in a lockdown. I'll update you every 5 minutes. I'm going to add this. I love you guys.
Text your parents, don't text your friends, don't post on social media. Duh. Here's one thing, a lockdown can be scary and it's probably going to last a long time. I need you to support each other, listen to your teacher. What else do you keep in mind?
Don't open the door for anything.
What if they say it's the police? Like this, police, open the door.
I don't know if it's really the police or someone trying to fool me, so I'm not going to open the door for anybody or even say anything.
Right, law enforcement or an administrator will unlock and open the door.
Same thing with an announcement on the PA. You're going to stay here until administrator or police comes and opens the door.
What about the fire alarm?
When we're in a lockdown, we're going to treat a fire alarm a little different. Unless it's really a fire in the room, we're going to initially stay home. Although I might look at other ways to get outside.
If you're in the hallway, cafeteria, or gym, try to get behind a locked door or try to get out of the building. Remember, 5 minutes, so go quick. Think about other locking doors, like staff bathrooms and some offices.
The student bathrooms are probably a last resort. No locking doors, but at least you can get out of sight. This is a good time to talk about evacuating. Sometimes we just need to leave the building. Depending on what's happening, we might be asked to leave our stuff. Or we may be asked to bring it. If your phone's in your pocket, keep it there.
If you're here lockdown and aren't in a locked classroom, remember self-evacuation is another option.
That means getting out of the building and going to a safe place.
Once you're there, call your parents, tell them you're okay. The school might also give you an emergency number to contact.
What happens when police release the lockdown?
Police or an administrator will open the door and begin the classroom evacuation. Now, don't be surprised if they're a little loud or they keep shouting, "Show me your hands!"
Got it. They're going to be loud and keep my hands empty and visible. Can I bring my stuff?
Probably not, just what's in your pockets.
They'll probably bring us to a secure assembly area like a cafeteria or a gym before moving us to where our parents can pick us up.
At the assembly area, don't be surprised if an officer searches you. They just want to make sure there's nothing dangerous out there.
Got it. They're going to be loud. They're going to search us.
If you think about it, you're probably going to be stressed, so it's going to feel a little more intense than it really is. They are probably going to be a little stressed. They probably don't know you, but we all have the same goal in mind, to keep you safe.
So what you're saying is cut everyone a little break, and we can actually help reduce their stress and our parents' stress.
Okay, there's one more action.
Let's talk about shelter.
Different schools might do different things, but here are some examples of what might be announced.
Tornado, get to the storm shelter. Earthquake, drop the cover and hold. Hazmat, seal doors and windows. Tsunami, get to higher ground.
This is important. I was in 4th grade at Sandy Hook Elementary School on December 14, 2012. I got out. My little brother was at Sandy Hook too. He got out, but it was a close call. My older brother and sister were at the middle school. It was a tough day for them too. So I just need to have a plan, have some options.
And you need to know the adults have a plan too. I was the school resource officer at Arapahoe High School in 2013 when the attack happened there.
I'm going to ask you to do one more thing. When you go home today, talk to your parents. Tell them about what you learned today.
All right, we'll take a little bit closer look at each of those that they mentioned. I hope some of you that have maybe middle school or high school students had the opportunity to bring that home and visit with you a little bit about safety procedures. We're going to work as an elementary group as far as rollout, given the age differentiations to what you see in that video, but that will be coming. Just left this up there as far as what might be heard inside the building, depending on what the announcement is. Of course, it will be specific to both situation at hand and building in our district as far as getting the proper information out quickly and efficiently to get everybody into whatever situation it is. So the hold that they mentioned, that's where you're keeping students in the classroom. Could be something that you just need the hallways cleared for, a medical situation. You could have a maintenance situation where something caves in and the hallway is impassable, or you just got to hold everybody for the time being. But that is going to be everybody just hold and sit in your classroom, but you're going to be business as usual and continue to learn. What the teachers will do, they will close and lock the door. They'll check who's in the room, because that's another additional check after attendance had been taken at the beginning. Maybe someone went to the bathroom, things of that nature. You want to know who's present right in that moment, and then you conduct business as usual. Secure, that's where there is something going on the exterior of the building that would be of concern. Could be a report of someone that we don't know who it is in the area. Maybe someone, we had a situation at Lincoln Elementary where someone had gotten out of the hospital that was possibly a threat, so we moved into this type of situation. But the difference with this, and this is one of the big improvements that we feel we've made, we used to call this our soft lockdown. And that second word there ties into what our most serious situations are that we could face in the school, which also created some uncertainty. And I have no doubt in my mind some anxiety and maybe some bad thoughts for students, staff, and of course, parent guardians out there. And so we felt we placed some undue stress on people with the old terminology, and that's where this change we think will benefit. Because if we do have one of those more significant situations, we can then go into lockdown, so we still have that piece in place. And so secure can happen for a lot of reasons, but what they will do, staff will do, is bring everybody inside, lock the outside doors, increase situational awareness, what's going on. It could be a dog loose on the playground at one of our elementaries where you got to get the kids safe inside. Take attendance so we know who is present right in that moment, and then you go about business as usual inside the building. With secure, you might have some context-specific situations. I know Beetle had that one recently here, and so there are various things that come out, and of course we'll communicate that absolutely as soon as we can to let you guys know. We might have situations where students can come and go with a pickup at the front door for a parent. We might have other secure situations where that's not possible due to what is right outside one of our buildings. Again, lockdown, that's where you're getting safe, locking the door, pretending like no one's home in any of our classroom situations. And that means we have a threat inside the building. It could be the intruder, it could be an animal that gets inside the building. But there's a variety of situations where we want to make sure we get everybody safe right now and lock it down. As part of our other safety procedures, we have had something in place now for a few years called ALICE. And so the ALICE situation is alert, lockdown, inform, counter, and evacuate. And we've trained our staff in ALICE procedures. And really that was a big step forward for YSD in empowering our students and staff to use their senses and what is immediately around them, because we don't want to create robotic movements because we've been told to do this, this, and this if the threat's sitting right in front of us. It's kind of a different version. If you smell fire, you see fire, you go the opposite direction. And we felt we could make improvements in that area. And we did a couple of years ago. So then we had this good training in place. How does that mesh with these other pieces that we put in? Well, our ALICE fits in right inside of the lockdown. So that is how our staff and potentially our students, depending on the age of them, will operate inside of an emergency situation in lockdown. And ALICE, again, is that acronym that fits into some of the other pieces in the plan as well, like that E is evacuate. We have that coming up here as well. Just a couple other examples of how this could be applied to our district buildings. Yankton High School goes into a hold due to a seizure. Well, that's specific to this building, so there's not going to be other buildings impacted because of a medical situation at one building. You could have a situation with a weapon reported in around the 21st Street area, and you've got Stewart and the middle school that are more adjacent to that situation, not the other buildings. Other buildings would go into secure because of the seriousness of that nature. However, it's different from building to building because of the situation. Lincoln and secure due to a warrant being served in the area, no other buildings impacted because of proximity. So just some examples there. Moving on to evacuate, we might need to evacuate for a lot of reasons. It could be the gas leaks, it could be at the end of a lockdown situation. But one of the things we've worked hard at, and for a lot of years now, is don't just evacuate because the fire alarm is pulled. That has previously been utilized for no good in other situations. And again, if there's not a fire right there, we gotta assess the situation, make sure the safest thing to do is to evacuate, because it may not be depending on the circumstances. There's a couple differences in our potential evacuations. Evacuation routes wouldn't change unless there's a blockage of a passage, things of that nature. However, we might evacuate the building in the immediate proximity of the building, and that would be to a rally point already established near a building. Or you might evacuate from a building with buses to a reunification site where then we would connect with families. So our evacuation would be the same, but we'd have some differences in potentially where we would need to go depending on what situation is at hand. What do the teachers do in this situation, or staff members? Lead students to that location, always take an attendance so we have a good accurate count of the students in front of us, and then notify if any students are missing, or maybe the student that went to the bathroom when you locked down joined your class on the way, so we gotta make sure we have that student accounted for, so we're always taking that accurate attendance, and also on the adult side. Shelter seems like an appropriate topic on a night like tonight with what is in the area, but this really takes place where action take cover and deals primarily with severe weather threats, tornadoes, high winds, derechos, whatever it may be. Teachers still taking attendance. You'll see that common theme throughout this. So, any questions on any of those 5 SRP or standard response protocol? Hold, secure, lockdown, evacuate, shelter. All right, so standard reunification method, and I just want to reiterate, we do have reunification procedures already in place, all working with the law enforcement and emergency management people that are present tonight. Those are established and have been for quite some time. However, like we said earlier, how can we improve? We feel like some training for our staff, coupled with I Love You Guys organization, will be a good thing. There's some literature that we can provide to parent guardians as a positive from the I Love You Guys. And we are going to continue to take steps on the standard reunification method and shoring up that area to make sure we can be as efficient and good as possible as we move forward with our Forward 2029 plan, because that was an area highlighted by that group that we got to take some steps forward on. So, what other things were on our minds, and what we hope to accomplish with rolling out these new safety procedures? Continue to empower students and staff. All right, there's nothing better than what's happening right around you and making sure you can use that information. Some of you are familiar with Lincoln Elementary and the hill to the west side. I say if it's literally head for the hills where you gotta head to get safe, then you do it, all right? You gotta make sure you get kids safe. Sandy Hook had a nearby house where dozens and dozens of students found safety in that moment. They left the building and found safety. Another piece you may have heard in the SRP video there, how students say they're going to be able to text a loved one, a parent, guardian, and that, of course, by our old procedures would have been a no cell phone use for any reason except for to call 911, and it's going to be situational dependent. And it depends on age, but there may be opportunities after 5 minutes, after 10 minutes, where we know the most efficient means of getting good information to a parent is allowing the tool that's in their pocket to communicate. And so that is a change we will make. However, that's going to look different depending on what age level you're talking about. Some levels, that's not allowed. I know at the middle school they talked about sending emails potentially when the situation, of course, is safe and they work through attendance and all those other pieces. And then, you know, they listed off a number of those shelter situations. We have a variety of things that could arise, and you can't plan for every what if. That is not possible. We could spend the next 2 hours saying what if in situations, so you gotta have some simplified language that help us as staff, first responders, and you guys know that we have a plan for whatever the situation may be, because we have some overarching goals and procedures that we're going to use, and so the language is meant to be applied in all situations, and of course is meant to be simplified. Other goals, this right here, you know, as Dr. Kendall mentioned at the beginning, it certainly wasn't like we were trying to keep secrets, but we thought we could do a better job of getting you guys into knowing in the mix, because as parents, grandparents, community members, we want to know that there's a good plan in place, and the adults that we send our children to each and every day have a good, solid plan that are going to execute that plan at a moment's notice, whatever necessary. And so education was important, and then of course we hope that there's some trust that occurs while we have that communication. So, as parent guardians, what are some things that you might be able to do to help? Allow emergency personnel access to a site. And the more cars, you know, you can go back and watch video of Sandy Hook. There were cars right up to the door, and first responders couldn't access some of the entrances in that situation due to the circumstances. So allowing emergency personnel access, which also goes hand in hand with not coming straight to the front door of the school, and just trusting that we are going to work hard to keep everybody safe in that moment, get the information out to everybody as soon as we possibly can, and get you connected if it's a more significant situation with your loved one and child absolutely as soon as we can. And then the other thing is keeping phone lines open to the extent that we can for use, for calling out emergency, whatever it may be. The more we get inundated with that, the harder it is to manage some of those situations. And again, we will push something out to the whole building or the whole district, depending on the circumstance, absolutely as soon as we can, with good information, because we know when some of these situations hit, the social media starts to get going and the information gets chopped up 100 different ways, and some of it's just not accurate to what we're seeing in our buildings. And so having it come directly from us is a good thing, and allowing us time to get that out is also good. Trust those, kind of like Dr. Kendall was talking about, the emergency management people and all of the law enforcement in our community to handle them, and then wait for that communication I was just referencing as far as YFC. And I promise that is upmost. First thing, get everybody safe. Second thing, tell everybody that we have them safe. You know, I mean, those are our top two things right there, and so that is our goal in these settings. So, what's to come as far as YSD, because we're not done here with this rollout. We have I Love You Guys full staff training in the October in-service dates, so that Friday in October. I Love You Guys is coming in and going to provide both SRP and some SRM training to our full entire staff, and that is everybody. Bus drivers, coaches, custodians, the whole works. So everybody that does see your students, because they could be going to the lunch line where one of these emergency situations happen. So we have everybody with that same baseline. Standard reunification method training, we have that in the works for later on, where it's specific to that reunification piece and connecting students with their families, looking at a spring follow-up training with I Love You Guys for that. And this is something that was pretty exciting that we didn't know was going to happen when our Forward 2029 committee kind of pushed us forward to these things when we went and set up the training last April. But we found out this summer that Brett Garland, who is Department of Public Safety and under the Department of Homeland Security, they are going to iloveyouguys.org stuff for schools statewide. And there's a couple pieces that I think were really good about that. One, it kind of validates that we were on the right track because it's good enough for every student in our state. It's good enough for Yankton School District as well, and so that's a good thing. But there's also going to be some resources that come about, and that can only add to the training we can add for staff, and in a very cost-effective way. And so we're excited about our Department of Public Safety taking on I Love You Guys, and we're going to continue to work with them on further partnerships. So, with that, what questions does anybody have? Okay, the question was, when do we plan on going live with this and implementing this? And the answer was last Monday. We started these. We had signs up around all of our school district buildings before students and staff came back. We also, the first training we did for our staff was similar to this right here. We did that last Tuesday, or 2 Tuesdays ago, excuse me, Tuesday before we started school. And so we've had some staff trainings, and we are rolling out as far as training middle school and high school students, and then our next step is figuring out that step for the elementary students as well. So we are in the midst of it. Thank you. Other questions?
Mr. Messi, I've got a few more comments to that. Oh, we have a question.
Is there a stated location for pickup?
As far as the reunification, we have multiple options in play because we have to have certain parameters as far as law enforcement to be able to secure the area, access for our buses, and things of that nature. And so we have them identified. However, there's also the piece of if we publicize all those, everybody's going to beat to the spot there. So those are things we work on with our law enforcement community and kind of follow their lead on that piece of it. But we have those in place already, and we will continue to evaluate as we need to make sure they're the best options in our community. So the question is how will we be notified, and when and where will that notification happen? And that is going to happen as soon as we can. As soon as we know that's a path we're going to need to go down, that would probably come from either Dr. Kindle, the superintendent, or maybe from a building principal. And that is going to be done in conjunction again with our law enforcement entities driving that. So there isn't necessarily a concrete answer as far as exactly how quickly that would happen, because again, the first thing is securing the buildings and classrooms and all that, assessing that it's safe to transport students, and then once you know that part is safe and you can put that plan in action, then we notify parents, here's the location, please come there, come to this street or this entrance, those types of things. Good questions.
More of a comment, I just want to note that I appreciate how well the school does communicate things currently, effectively through text, phone calls, whenever Dr. Field decides it's a snow day, that message gets out really well, I think.
I would also add, and this, I don't know that this would be possible, maybe, depending upon what the situation is, but one of the things that we just added in front of all the schools are the electronic message boards. We know that we can access that now through technology from anywhere, so it would also allow us to have another way to communicate with parents quickly instead of going out and changing letters. We can do it electronically. And so there's a lot of value to those signs, and matter of fact, we're also working with a class or high school students that can help us use those boards to communicate quickly and effectively with parents. And then, thank you for a comment. and maybe back to a couple of these about communicating, I can guarantee you that we will communicate as quickly as we can with as much accurate information as we would have at that time. You know, again, it's human nature that people want to know right now when something happens, are my kids safe? Where do we pick them up? What do we do? And I think even for us at school, working with law enforcement, emergency personnel, that's going to be a slow process when something happens. But I think it's really about trust. You trusting us trusting our law enforcement, and being patient during a crisis is not easy to do. But I can guarantee you that our top priority will keep the kids safe and communicate as much as we can and as often as we can.
I just wanted to say that, in my opinion, you guys will be as far as being able to secure and safe, so that wasn't my concern.
Thank you. I want to take you back here for a minute, and this isn't a real easy discussion to have, but when the Uvalde shooting took place, we all have heard about it, we've read about it, we've seen it. It's horrific. It's not anything that any one of us would want to be part of. It just was terrible. One of the things that we did is that Chief Foote and I met after that happened, a couple of weeks after it happened, and we knew that our admin team was going to be coming back in August, and he and I sat down and we talked about, is there anything that we can learn from this? Not to judge what somebody did or didn't do, but is there anything that we can learn from it as a district that maybe we could implement and do better here for our students and staff here in Yankton? So we talked about it a lot. When our admin team came back, we went through the report that came out at that time. We went through it page by page. That was not easy. But from that, we did think that we picked up some things that we felt that we could implement with our law enforcement and hopefully do better. And I know that Chief Foote is not here right now, but one of the things that he said to me that I'll just never forget is he said, I can guarantee you that we will go in and get the kids. And there will be no hesitation. So that would be our goal, is to keep the kids safe.
Thank you, Dr. Kendall. Any other questions? I want to make sure we get everything answered, but we're a hair over half hour. Go ahead.
I just had a question about the secure pieces. I'm reading through this, and it says that the school should notify parents that the school has increased their security. So this just doesn't seem clear to me. So I was just wondering if Yankton will have a specific policy about when there is a secure incident, if parents will be notified, or if it's a little bit more nuanced.
Yeah, so we don't have a policy in place because we're just implementing these specific safety procedures. But I think it's fair to say that the building principal will get information out. And I'll give you a secure example that can be pretty quick and pain-free, so to speak. Dog loose on the playground, you get everybody inside, you get the dog returned home to the neighbor, and 4 minutes later you're out of secure. So inside of a secure, are you going to get notified in that window? Probably not. That probably would be after it happened. We had to go into secure protocol for these 5 minutes today, took care of the animal on the playground, and now we're back to business as usual. So I think, yes, there will be a notification. What time frame that happens would be would be dependent on exactly the circumstances of the secure. But yes, we followed it up. Typically, probably as a building principal, that message would come.
Yeah, and to Mr. Best's point, I think part of it is on timing, and part of it is why did we go into secure? This case, a dog, maybe it's a pit bull that got loose on a playground. We need to bring the kids in. It's 2:30. We get the kids in at recess. You may not, probably not, are not going to get a message about that just because of a dog on the playground. However, here's an example where you're most likely going to get a message, and this happened last year at Beetle Elementary School. Mr. Mitchell and I worked together on this. We had a situation where the police department got a hold of us, said we need to make an arrest. There's a fugitive in the neighborhood. We're going to go to the house. We would absolutely recommend that you have kids inside. The doors are locked. So we did all that, and then that was communicated to our parents because we felt it was very important that parents knew that, given the circumstances, and then the timing was such that we could still get a message out, which we thought would be relevant for parents. So it's really going to depend. The other day we had a gas leak. It was not at Beetle, but Mr. Mitchell had contacted me. I happened to be in the area. I was heading to a different school. Pulled in there, got out, I could smell gas. And you could smell gas outside. There was nothing inside. So he made the decision to get kids inside, out of the smell of the gas. We found out that there was a leak 6-7 blocks away that the gas company was dealing with. But we went into that level, and a message went out. We just felt like we should let our parents know about a gas leak, so there's not miscommunication. So does that help clarify, maybe, and when we communicate?
Yes, and I will just reiterate what other people have said, that I feel that there's been great communication from the back of the school.
Thank you. Yes. So I think, I don't think anybody really knows how you would react if something really did happen. And I hope that we never have to do that. But if we do, I think planning means a lot. And being prepared as much as you can means a lot. And to be able to communicate with you all and let you know what we're doing. And again, you're going to get the handouts for this as attachments. You'll get an email from me with that. And there will be more information that I think will be very helpful to you. If you have any other questions after you receive the information, feel free to reach out to your child's building principal. I don't mind taking a phone call if you have something in addition to that. I'd be happy to visit with you. But with that, I again want to thank all of the law enforcement, emergency people that are here tonight. I trust them. I trust their decision making, and we will take their lead when it's time to hand that off to them. And we will follow their directives. Anybody from that group, any comments from anybody? Okay? Officer Olson, no? Okay. Any other questions that we can answer? Yes.
I read before that other school districts kind of implemented phones and lockers. So if that's the case, if you guys are doing a lockdown, how does it text us if they can't get your phones?
Yeah, well, there are schools that are banning phones. We're not in that arena at this time. It's certainly not a recommendation that I have either as superintendent at this time. Like Mr. Bestie shared with all of you, we did have a philosophy in the last several years about if we had an emergency, there shouldn't be any phone use, so on and so forth. And what we've learned is that those phones, those devices, could be a real asset to us, to the police, to you as parents. And I think what we need to do is when we practice these things, the new things that we're going to do, we need to teach our kids how to use them in an emergency. And I think that you can help us as parents, if that would ever happen, to reinforce that if you're ever in a lockdown, which is the highest level, you need to listen to what you're being told by school personnel. And if they ask you to use your phones at a certain time, that's when you should use them. Now, is somebody gonna get in trouble for texting or sending something out before they're told? No, our goal is to keep our kids safe. We just want accurate communication going out to the best that we can. That's all that we want, and no confusion for law enforcement, that there's 20 different scenarios going out there. There's only one that might be closely accurate for law enforcement, because you know what social media can do. It can go wild and a lot of misinformation. Believe me, I know that when I have a bad weather day. So, believe me, it can be inaccurate at times.
And if I could just add one more point of clarification, high school is going to be a little different as far as that regard to middle school. That's why we got the email piece in place. Upper elementary might look different as far as that, because they could probably send an email. We will probably not be having preschoolers and kindergartners send emails or anything like that. And so it's just as different as far as each age, and we're trying to figure out the best ways we can have that communication be as efficient as possible.
Is there security in all the school buildings?
They are all secure, so locked all the way around. As far as like school resource officers, so Officer Olson is based out of the middle school, Officer Russenberger is based here at YHS, and then they float to elementaries as needed, and I promise you they can be there very, very quickly when we need them to arrive. Did I answer your question?
I did notice one thing on one of our slides that, and we won't go back to it, but I think it's under one of the secure slides, and maybe some of you caught it. But one of the steps is to lock the outside doors. Just so you know, they are always locked. And so that's just part of their protocol. And as Mr. Bestie said, and I know that Officer Olson, when they went to the national training for this in Minnesota, we actually found out that we were doing a lot of the things that they're wanting schools to do. And in some cases, we were doing more than what was asked, but in a good way more. And so, if you saw that on there, I know I've caught it both times, 3 or 4 times I've seen it, but I want to assure you that our facilities are secure and they're locked. And I think you all know that when you go up to a school, it's pretty hard to get into, and it should be today, unfortunately. Other questions? Really great questions. Anything else? Yes? Yeah, Mr. D, you want to address the Summit Center High School? That's a really good question too.
That's a great question. So that is all secure. There is no flow one way or another. Doors are locked, so students can't go there, and people from the Summit can't enter into YHS. So that was an initiative that our school board, Dr. Kimball, City Commission, they put those things in place a few years ago, and that's worked really, really well.
And then I would add to that, if you may or may not have noticed this if you're in the Summit Activity Center in our main gym. If you look up above where the city side is, where they can work out, remember they used to be able to come in and have access? There's no longer access there. We've shut that off, we've secured it. And part of that, honestly, was that we were worried about somebody coming during the day from the city side, accessing the workout area, coming through those doors and having access to the school. We had everything else locked, but we did not have that secured. And so that's no longer available for anybody to come through up there. But it was a weakness that we had, and we worked with the city and we rectified that. I think just last year we finished it up. Good question. Anything else? Yes.
Years ago, when we were in high school, one of the times,
Yeah, we still have an open campus for our seniors. It's something that they earn. They go back and forth, and it is something. The doors are locked after they leave. There's a period of time that they're unlocked, but they're locked afterwards.
And they're entering the front doors right through the main office where they're locked out to come back in. So, yep, that's a secure. Yep.
Anything else? Okay, thank you for coming tonight, we appreciate it.